officially recording. And everyone, if you can stay muted after the presentation, you can ask questions, say your comments, please do so by raising your hand. Got a little graphic there to show you where to raise your hand and type into the chat. You can do that throughout the presentation, and then afterward we'll call on to ask questions or state your comment. Just quickly on the background here, I'm going to take 10, maybe 15 minutes to present, and then the rest of the time for comments, questions, question and answer with SDOT. Close around 7:25 with the last question or two there. So why are we here? This meeting is really to collect input from the community, answer your questions you have about these two intersections, really bringing the neighbors who live close by to these two intersections and the people biking, walking, rolling on the intersections as well. So we're not here to make any final decision tonight. We really want to use this up as an opportunity to hear from you of what you're experiencing on the street day to day. For background, we had planned two diverters at the intersections of Southwest Brandon Street and Southwest Genesee at the intersections with 26th Avenue Southwest. So these diverters were our response to what we heard from the community about, one, improving the greenways adjacent to Delridge, and then also reducing cut-through traffic on the side streets. So when we were installing the diverters, this was late July, we posted flyers and heard from the community opposition to the diverters. And so that's when we halted construction, and which brings us to why we're here tonight, to go back out to the community and hear from you about what you'd prefer at these intersections. To set the ground for where we're at, we know things have changed. They're not like they were 7 months ago, and they aren't as they were 12 months ago when we were collecting input on the Delridge project. So COVID-19, people have changed, some permanently, their commutes. They're working from home, their travel has changed. The bridge closure, again, an unexpected huge impact to all traffic in West Seattle, people's travel patterns throughout West Seattle and Duwamish Valley. And then lastly, there's a major construction project on the corridor that's having impacts to cut-through traffic, street access, detours throughout. So we know things aren't the same as they were in the planning stage of Delridge. And so, again, that's why we want to hear from you about how things have changed and what it looks like on the streets today. So I want to talk through quick the two big items we were hearing from the community about bike facilities in the Delridge corridor, and then also about cut-through traffic. So first, bike facilities. So as part of the Rapid Ride project, Delridge is prioritized for transit and general purpose vehicle traffic. So with that, the two neighborhood greenways are being upgraded to provide a safer, more efficient connection throughout the whole Delridge corridor. And so part of, you'll see in this graphic, I know it's very small, but the northern chunk, there was a bike lane on Delridge that is being removed, and so those two greenways are being upgraded. So secondly, cut through traffic. So this is something we heard about, before the pandemic, before the bridge closure. A lot of people were using 26th Avenue Southwest to bypass a lot of the traffic on Delridge, especially during the peak hours. And so creating a less safe environment for people biking, walking, and rolling, but also just a lot more vehicles on the neighborhood streets. So now next few slides, we'll look at existing conditions and then the options that we have looked at. So again, everyone here probably knows what these look like. The intersections of Southwest Genesee and the intersection of Southwest Brandon with 26th Ave Southwest. So we'll go through each of these options. the original, and then after we heard from the community and halted construction of that original diverter, 2 additional options we're looking at. There may be more options that we can consider after input is collected after the survey closes. There may be others we look at. Let's go through all 3 of them. The first one here, this is the one that we went out to the community and posted, did some door-to-door outreach and posted flyers about the diverters, and again halted it. But this first type of diverter, if you're on 26th Avenue Southwest, you would not be able to go straight. So that would be cutting, forcing people to get off of 26th Avenue and turn on Southwest Brandon or Southwest Genesee, and it would be right turns only. So bikes, you can see, can go straight through, and then all other vehicle traffic is being forced to turn right there. Or if you're on Southwest Brandon or Southwest Genesee, those vehicles could go right or straight. That was the original one that we halted. And I want to stop here and ask if CJ has anything to add. I went kind of fast through the slide, so I want to see if CJ, you have anything to add on any of the topics.
No, I think you covered it pretty well. Just, one thing to note is as we were starting to install these, one of the thoughts of installing these early in construction was try to address some of the cut through traffic that we expected from construction. And just one thing to keep in mind is during construction, even now, there's a lot of those side streets that are closed to through traffic. And, the intent, no matter what we put in or when we put it in and activate it, the intent is always to look at what those closures look like and make sure that we're coordinating with the construction team to keep access as open as possible. But that was one of the intents of putting it in early. So just something to keep in mind, that there is definitely a coordinated effort on all of these options with the ongoing construction that's happening out there.
Thanks, CJ. Okay, so after we stopped construction of the first option and heard from the community, we went back and looked at 2 additional options. So the second one here is a modified traffic diverter, and here's 2 photos of what this looks like in a couple locations in Northwest Seattle. So you'll see bikes can go in, but vehicles would not be able to go in. So I'll show the graphics here for these. So the modified traffic diverter, if you're on 26th Avenue, you can go left or right. But if you're on Southwest Genesee or Southwest Brandon, you're going straight there. So again, bikes can go through, but people driving would need to turn left or right if they're on 26th Avenue Southwest. Again, just creating less conflicts between people driving and people biking to make it a little safer for those biking, walking, or rolling in the area. Okay, and now I'm going to hand it over to Summer Johnson to talk about the third option, which is a Stay Healthy Street.
Hey, I'm Summer Johnson. I manage the Neighborhood Greenways and Stay Healthy Streets program. And Madison, I just want to add on to what you were saying about diverter options 1 and 2. Is we could select option 1 at Brandon and option 2 at Genesee. There's nothing that says we have to do the same type of diverter at both locations. So just so that's really clear. Stay Healthy Streets are upgraded neighborhood greenways that we've started installing as part of the COVID-19 response to allow people more space for walking and biking throughout the city. And they've become really popular throughout the city. And so we have Mayor Durkin's announced that we're going to make 20 miles of neighborhood greenway permanently upgraded to Stay Healthy Streets throughout the city of Seattle. And so we recently did a survey on Stay Healthy. Had over 9,000 responses and heard from people about which neighborhood greenways they would like to have upgraded. And because 26 was an option on that survey, and as part of that outreach, we wanted to make sure we were really coordinating the two efforts and hearing from the neighbors around 26 at the same time. So if you could advance the slide. So for a Stay Healthy Street, the street is officially closed at every intersection. So vehicles that need to access a home or a business on that street can use the street. However, the priority has been shifted to people who are walking, biking, rolling. They have priority in the street. You can travel on the street for a block that you need to get to, but you're not supposed to continue along the street for multiple blocks. So right now we're doing that with temporary materials, but we're looking at upgrading 20 miles, like I said, to be permanent using tough posts or ecology blocks. And this is an example of one that was done in Toronto, showing how local artists can influence that design. So this would be at every intersection, and we could do that from either Andover to Juneau or a shorter section from Genesee to Brandon. So here's what they look like right now using our temporary materials in Seattle. The example on the left is at a intersection without a traffic circle, and the image on the right shows how that would interact with the traffic circle, essentially closing down half of the street at the intersection. And then, yeah, thank you, Madison. Go ahead. Perfect. Essentially closing down the half of the intersection. So vehicles exiting would be adjacent to those signs, and then any vehicle that needed to turn in to access a home or business on that block would have to wait and share the entrance side where through the same narrow opening that is used for vehicles exiting.
Thanks, Summer. So those are the three options, again, the one original and the two additional that we wanted to share back with the community. And we are collecting input really through October 14th. That's when we'll close the survey. So we want to be able to post this presentation online and send it out through the Delridge email and whatnot, so we can get people can get access to everything. And shortened URL there for the Survey Monkey survey. It's 5 to 10 minutes to complete, and then checking today we had about 250 responses, which is great. So we're getting a lot of good responses on that survey. As always, you can email or call us, and we will take your input that way as well, or anyone on the call too. We can get your input. And then our project page has a lot more details about the Delridge project in general. So again, survey closes October 4th. We will summarize all the results from tonight, hearing from you, and then develop a preferred alternative for the two intersections. And again, thank you, Summer, for stating that it doesn't have to be, if we go with Diverters, it doesn't have to be the same at each. And then the timing is still to be determined. It will definitely need to take in considerations of current Delridge construction. So for example, if Southwest Brandon, let's say, needs to be closed, we don't want to be doing two sets of construction that could cause even more impacts. So timing is still to be determined on everything there. Again, we'll open it up for questions. Just want to gather everything you have to say and get everything answered there, and then let the community get their input for SDOT. So now I will open it up for questions, and if you have one, please raise your hand, or you can type it in the chat. And I have a couple more people on the call that I'm going to make sure you have the capability to turn on your video and talk if you prefer to do so. Okay, so I see a couple hands up, so I'm going to go with Philippa Nye. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, you can ask your question.
Hi, thanks for having this meeting. I have mainly a comment, which is just that you know, because of the topography on that side of Delridge, there's basically two streets that are going to be used for cut through traffic, and also, you know, just people in the neighborhood getting, you know, here and there. And that's 25th and 26th. So, you know, you cut off any kind of traffic on 26 through any of these three methods, you just drive traffic to 25th. And I guess my experience at 26th is that the speed bumps have been doing a good job of slowing people down, so that, you know, it hasn't been dangerous there. I walk on that street a lot. But if people start just going over to 25th, it's a very tight street. There's a lot of on-street parking. And so it's really one lane and there's only one speed bump. So it feels like people actually are going to probably start using 25th and start speeding on 25th. I just think there's too few routes to get places, to get up the hill, to get down to Delridge, to be limiting things by, you know, by the diverters or let alone by shutting off the street. I think that's a really bad idea. So I guess I don't support any of these options. I think it would be better to just, you know, do status quo and see how it is once the bridge reopens, and then evaluate again in a year or so after that and see if there's anything else that's needed. That's my comment.
Thank you. So thanks for that comment, and I want to see if CJ, you could provide a little more background for Philippa.
Yeah. Hi, Philippa. I'm CJ Holt. I forgot to introduce myself earlier. I'm the project manager for the Rapid Ride H-Line Delridge project. You know, that's a really good comment, and we did look at 25th, and we you know, during planning and design, we did make sure to take a close look at 25th and make sure that we weren't driving traffic onto 25th. 25th doesn't go through, which means it doesn't go all the way north to south, you know, through Genesee all the way to Andover. So we weren't expecting and anticipating a lot of traffic to cut through on 25th. But that's certainly something that we can continue looking at and monitoring, especially, you know, during construction. You know, as traffic patterns change, that's something that we'll want to monitor, because we definitely don't want to be driving additional cut through traffic to 25th. It's a really small, you know, really tight street. It's not a place that we want a lot of cars going through. That's definitely something to consider and to take a look at. So thanks for the comment.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in response to that I think there's, you know, you can get a good 5 or 6 blocks of driving before you have to you hit the park and then you have to jog over to 26. So, you know, people will still, I think, use that street, because they can still, you know, they can get part of where you know, they can jump the line on Delridge quite a bit on 25th. If they obviously, their preference, if they could, would be to take 26 the whole way. But if they're blocked from doing that by diverters, they're just going to go on 25th down to the park and then they're going to jump over.
Okay. Thank you, Philippa. I'm going to keep going to a couple. So I see some more hands up. I'm going to go Rob, and then Katie Van Fleet in the chat. So we'll go Rob, Katie, then Jenny Shannon, and then Kathy Henderson.
Yeah, so thank you guys for organizing this meeting and listening to our feedback. Please pay careful attention to the feedback that you're going to receive from me and others. I second everything Philippa said. Right now, guys, it just feels like what you're doing is jamming this down our throats. We don't want it. We didn't ask for it. And I think there's a better way to go about all this, namely not going with any of these three options. In my view, they're all terrible. We're left with bad, worse, and worst. And that can't be the solution. We don't want what SDOT is selling here. The process should be community-led and community-driven. Instead, it feels like SDOT is, again, ramming this down our throats without any input, as evidenced by a couple of things. For example, a few months ago, you tried to build this thing with providing us 2 days notice and then implement construction 2 days later. I've heard personally strong, overwhelming feedback against, and it sounds like it's not, that messaging for some reason is not getting through to SDOT. I've read and reviewed the proviso, the response from SDOT to the funding proviso. In my view, I'm a trained lawyer for a living. In my view, it contains, at best, highly creative and selective pieces of feedback, if you will, from our neighborhood and from our community. At worst, it contains material omissions and misrepresentations of material fact. Like I'll point to section 2B and 2C. No one asked for any of that stuff. Another thing I think is worth noting here is that, again, it seems that SDOT has already decided without community input exactly what you want to do. As evidenced by those things that I told you before, as evidenced by the fact that outside right now, there's SDOT markings on Brandon and 26. Why? You already have it in mind. So listen, I implore you, listen to our feedback. We don't want this. All the emails that I'm on and get forwarded to me and the conversations that I have with neighbors on my morning runs on 26, no one wants this. I think what SDOT has a very, very narrow view of what constitutes safety. Philippa aptly pointed out all the increased traffic that's going to happen on 25th. I live on 25th. I got 3 young kids running around. That's unacceptable. I don't care. It's unacceptable. And what about all the traffic that's going to be diverted up this hill along 30th, southbound on 30th? Let's think this through, guys. Let's not have a myopic view of safety. None of these options are workable. We don't want any of them. We can and must do better. I don't think that SDOT would force and impose these changes on neighborhoods like Madrona or Queen Anne. Why do you think you can do that to Delridge? We've been underrepresented and underheard too long, and it ends now. If you want to do something about the safety, if you're so concerned about that, I think, from what I'm hearing, I think we'd be open to potentially a traffic light on the corner of Genesee and 26, potentially. And potentially, we might be open to a 4-way stop on Brandon and 26. But the solutions that are put before us, they're terrible. They're lousy. We can and must do better. So again, I leave you with that. Please take, internalize, and react to this feedback because this is what I'm hearing throughout my community.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate all the research you've been doing and all your comments. So again, that's why we're here, is to come back out. So we stopped construction back in July, and so we want to make sure we're back here talking to everyone and hearing from you and all others. So thank you. Okay, so I want to move to a chat question about Stay Healthy Streets. Katie Van Fleet, if you want to unmute yourself, go ahead.
Hey there. I just want to say thank you for having this meeting and this conversation. Rob, thank you for expressing all your concerns. I'm a resident of 26 Ave, and I was definitely shocked when I got the notification on my door and saw the signs going up immediately. But my couple comments, I wanted to know if there had been any thought of kind of similar to what Rob had said, like a pedestrian light or traffic light at 26 and Genesee. I think that could potentially be a good option. Or local access signs. I've heard from neighbors too that they're really concerned about just increased traffic on 25th. So I was just wondering if just local access signs would be an option. Out of the 3 options that you guys did present, I think the Stay Healthy, Stay Safe Streets for me is the best one. But I know that there is concern about the parking for the Delridge playfield and the community center down on the corner. And so I think residents were concerned that that parking would be taken away if we did go with the Stay Healthy street. So my husband had a comment and said maybe the Stay Healthy, Stay Street could start at 26th and Southwest Alaska, kind of where the corner of that playfield ends or starts. So those were kind of my comments. If wanted to see if the pedestrian light was an option, local access signs were an option, or moving the Stay Healthy, Stay Safe Street to allow access for parking for the park down there.
Thanks, Katie. I think to answer your questions, I'm going to ask Summer to chime in there.
Hi, Katie. Thanks for that question. There's a lot in there, so circle me back if I miss a piece of it. So I just popped up the map on my other screen here. I think that the length of a Stay Healthy street could be really variable. We're finding that as we get into the details of this, we are kind of making those micro adjustments. Now, access to the Delridge playfield is something that would be considered local access. So if you did need to come in, but I understand like there's large surges of traffic that, arrive at the beginning of a game or the end of a game. So having the Stay Healthy street from Alaska to Brandon or Alaska to Juneau might be the option that makes the most sense in keeping that first block at Genesee open. I've kind of heard that a few places around the city that like that first block they want to keep open, but that's definitely something that we could consider is like if a Stay Healthy street is the one that advances and we want to talk more in detail about that, I think absolutely reasonable. And that's a lot to your point about the idea of having a improved crossing at Genesee. So what we see when we install things like traffic lights is it becomes a really convenient place for people who are driving to get on the arterial street. Suddenly everybody on the arterial has to stop for you. And so because we're creating those gaps in traffic on the arterial street, it becomes a really attractive cut-through route. And 26 is already such an attractive cut-through route. And the reason these diverters really got elevated was because so much of the traffic during the Avalon construction was cutting through on 26. And we just heard so much complaint about what that looked like during the AM and PM commute with people cutting around the Avalon paving project. So we do install traffic signals and rapid flashing beacons and things for improving bike and pedestrian crossing. In the past, when we've looked at Genesee, it hasn't qualified, but I know that traffic is changing dramatically out there. And I think a lot of the questions we have right now behind how long is it going to take us to get a solution to the West Seattle Bridge would drive, right now traffic numbers are still down because of COVID. And so we'd have to look at, as those numbers have slowly been coming up over the last 7 months, what would that look like? Where would it hit that point where we would actually need to put a signal there for people walking and biking across? I'm going to tell you, those pictures that you saw from the other diverters, those are in places where there are signals in Northwest Seattle, and we had to install the diverter because the signal drove so much traffic onto the street. They're both kind of what you were talking about, though. One of them's right at the intersection of the arterial, like we were talking with at Genesee and 26th, and then one of them is a block in, so it would be the equivalent of Alaska. So it's got one block in back from the arterial. But those, when you install that signal, it has to come with a diverter. Does that make sense? In order to achieve the goal of the project, which is to reduce the cut-through traffic and make it safer for walking and biking. Did I answer all the parts? Anything I missed?
I think so. Yes, thank you for all that information. What about local access signs? That was my other question, if those would be a possibility.
They're a tool in the toolkit, but honestly, you're not going to see a huge reduction of traffic with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm looking at the raised hands again. We've got close to 10 or so here and about 25 minutes left. So if you already talked, if you could lower your hand. If not, I think I have in my head who's asked a question. So I'll keep going through here, but I think we have Jenny Shannon, then Kathy Henderson, and then, so let's go Jenny, Kathy, Max Baker, and then Christine.
Thank you. I'll be quick. I just have small points to add to what's already been said. I live off of 26 near Brandon, and I think for people who live in the area, the burden of these diverters is really increased because we have a golf course and Camp Long. Like, there are very few options for getting around. And that, I think that places a really big burden on people who live here to have to divert around if we can't use our own streets to turn into our houses. So I just wanted to point out that huge kind of barrier that we have to drive around, and just kind of echo that living here, I'm not seeing the need for this. And so I was kind of wondering how this kind of became or how this need was identified, like what this is responding to, if this was actually, I'm new to these meetings. I wasn't here for the earlier conversations, but I'm just not seeing the issue that this is trying to solve, just in my day-to-day experience on these streets.
I'll add a little there. And then I think CJ will add a little more though, but really the diverters were our response to trying to reduce the cut through traffic that was coming off of Delridge, and then providing a safer connection throughout all of Delridge from Andover to even through Roxbury, getting a good connection there, as we would be taking some of the bikes facilities off of Delridge and it's really prioritizing Delridge for transit and vehicles. But so that was our response to those comments. And then CJ, do you want to add a little more there?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention on the, kind of where this came about. We did, as was mentioned in the presentation, we did take data. So we did counts. We did multiple days, multiple times of days to kind of, I don't know, do a check-in to see how where the volumes, where the numbers of vehicles were on 26th, which kind of fed into the decision. I mean, we are trying to make these decisions based on data. The numbers were higher than we expected. They were higher than we wanted to see. And we also heard, we did hear quite a few comments from the community complaining about the amount of cut-through traffic at the time. So it was a combination of those things that drove it, and then on top of that, as Madison was saying, trying to build a safe facility for all. We're trying to look out for drivers, bus riders, walkers, bikers, and to make a safe and connected bicycle facility north and south with basically kind of pushing the bikers off of Delridge. We had to make some improvements to the Greenway to make it safe and usable. So that all fed into it. And as Madison mentioned, those volumes, that we saw back before COVID, they were significantly higher, and we're definitely acknowledging that. Right now, the volumes are down, so that's something to consider. We're not seeing that. We do expect, those to go back to normal eventually. But we can't really predict the timing or anything like that, but we do expect that to go back to where it was at some point.
Okay, thank you. And let's keep going. Kathy Henderson.
Hey, yes. So I'm a longtime 26th Avenue resident homeowner. And I just have a couple comments about, so part of me feels like this is trying to solve the wrong problem. So I'm just going to say that I have children and they catch the school bus at the corner of 26th and Hudson. And when the bridge was bad, now it's obviously not an issue. I would watch car after car after car come off of Delridge on Hudson, and then take a right onto 26 and then zoom south to get around Delridge. So that, like, if there was a way to stop that, that would be, great, yay. But that's not this solution isn't fixing that problem, which to me was the biggest issue that I saw as a mom whose kids are catching the bus there, and was, a little frightened by all the traffic that we were dealing with some days, which is no longer an issue. Also, I'm a bike commuter, and I'm not really seeing how this is going to help me as a bike commuter. Genesee right now, at rush hour when I bike home, yeah, it's tricky. And I think what would be more helpful to me would be like a way to have a flashing light that I could activate myself, or like there's one up at Oregon and 21st that's a very clear pedestrian controlled crosswalk flashing light, and that is, I think, just a better solution for that intersection than what we have now, which is this car activated flashing light, which absolutely does nothing. It's useless in my opinion. I see people fly through that intersection at 50 miles an hour. And so it would be really great to have some kind of a pedestrian activated or bicycle activated signal there, really clear, really bright. The diverters to me are just a no-go. Like, that just seems like a bad idea. And we need some better, I don't know, it's not solving the problem. It's not solving the issue that I see as a resident. So I also think, we could maybe get more speed bumps. We could get another traffic circle at Alaska and 26th, because that intersection is really scary. People come flying down Alaska, turn right onto 26 there, and it's really blind, and it's coming down a hill. And I see people just run that and they don't even bother to stop. As a bike commuter, I've been almost hit there a few times. So anyway, there's other issues that are I think, need to be solved more than this particular solution you're offering. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Let's go. I'm going to keep going through some questions here so everybody gets a chance to ask. And I think Max Baker, if you want to go ahead.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thanks. Well, I just wanted to first off second Kathy's concern with the Alaska and 26 intersection. I've always thought something along the lines of a traffic circle or the like would help. Cars do come down that hill really fast, turn right, try to park next to the play fields, and it's kind of a blind corner. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Kathy. I guess to put it into context, my relationship with the neighborhood, I've worked in the Delridge neighborhood for the better part of 10 years and lived here for about 3. And I've been a bike commuter the entire time. So originally working at the Youngstown Cultural Arts Center, which is what brought me down to the neighborhood. So I was commuting from Queen Anne, Ballard down to the neighborhood, and then eventually moved down here because I really love the neighborhood. I will say in my time commuting in and out by bike, I've been personally witness to 2 cyclist deaths, one on Marginal, so outside the neighborhood. The other one was the 26th Avenue death that happened about 5 years ago. One of the more active members of the community who was actually pushing for the Greenway originally was hit and killed by a driver there. So there is a history of accidents along 26th Avenue. Then there's just this summer, if you look at the West Seattle blog, kind of a compendium of accidents that have been happening. There was a car that crashed up into the traffic circle on 26 next to the Delridge playfields. An accident that I was personally witness to about a month or 2 ago was a car speeding off of Genesee, taking a right into 26th, and crashed into a couple parked cars and flipped. So theoretically, preventing a right turn there with, say, like a half diverter would have prevented that car from being able to take that turn at high speeds because it wouldn't have been able to turn, generally speaking. So I do see a need, and I think that the need for cyclists is only going to increase because I do right now ride back up Delridge, or I used to at least when there was a bike lane of some sort along the western portion of Delridge, but there isn't going to be any bike lanes now that the transit corridor has been improved and, you know, all bike infrastructure is being removed off of Delridge. So it really does put us into conflict with cars over there more. And these cars drive very dangerously, especially in the widened area next to the playfields. I mean, I've seen cars literally drag racing in that area. It gets wider from Alaska to Genesee. South of Alaska, it's a narrower road on 26th, so cars tend to slow down there. But the wider section of Alaska to Genesee is really an issue there too. So I don't have a perfect solution. I am a fan of the half diverters. I don't think that residents should be not allowed to turn left to head to the junction. We don't have grocery stores in North Delridge. We're hoping to get the co-op to open soon. That would be great, but otherwise we do have to go up to the junction or down to Westwood Village to get our groceries. So we're kind of hemmed in here. So I understand those concerns, especially with the full diverter there. But I would hate to see nothing happen because yeah, the only accident that I've been involved in is someone coming up behind me on 26, crossing through Genesee. It was winter, it was dark, but they hit into me from behind. Luckily, they were going slow enough, but that's been my only incident. And it's taken place on the Greenway, so I'm hoping that we can see at least some improvements there.
Thank you, Max. All right, got a few more here. So I'm just looking at the list again, and I'm gonna go Joel, Christine, Andrew, Hillary. Let's go Joel, if you want to go ahead and talk quick.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
My name is Joe. I live in the High Point neighborhood, and I use the 26th Avenue Greenway to bike commute. It used to be by choice, and now it's by necessity to bike commute into SoDo. There's a big problem, and I'm glad to see some solution. I don't have a perfect solution, but you know, for the folks saying do nothing, that's not a good option. Not only are there safety concerns with cars cutting through on 26th, it's also an issue of access for bicyclists. When Delridge gets backed up and large numbers of cars divert to 26th, those cars then get backed up on 26th, and it makes it virtually impossible to cycle along 26th because there's a row of cars. I once counted, not kidding, I counted 40 cars backed up on 26th Avenue because they are all diverted off of Delridge. It's a big problem. For the folks who live on 26th, I get it. It's crummy when you can't have when some of your access points are limited. But I would think that there would be some folks living on 26th who would be begging for some solution to this problem, because your street has been turned into an expressway. There are so many blocked driveways when cars back up so much on 26th. So, I hope we can find some solution that will stop or severely decrease the number of cars cutting through. There were some earlier comments about 25th. That's actually, I think, a very valid concern. If drivers are still allowed to turn right on Genesee to return to Delridge, and then could potentially turn left on 25th, that's a valid concern. Too many cars are still going to cut through on 26th if they can return to Delridge via Genesee, or if they can cut over to 25th via Genesee. So what I'm saying, I don't know if this is at all possible, but if you really want an effective diverter, it would have to stop people from going straight on Genesee, and it would have to stop people from going right on Genesee. Now, I don't know if that's at all possible, given traffic patterns and whatnot. But if we want a thorough answer to cars cutting through on 26th, we're going to have to stop them not only from going straight, but also from turning right on Genesee. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. All right, I'm going to keep going here because we've got 10 minutes left. So I want to go Christine, Andrew, Hillary, Douglas, Tal. So Christine.
Hi there. So I am one of those folks that live on 26. I've been here for 10 years. Also a local business owner. So my office is on a little bit further past 26 as well. My big concern, definitely we do have some issues that we do want it to be safe for pedestrians, for cyclists. Putting the right turn only off of 26 onto Genesee, I believe Joe was mentioning it as well. It's going to, you'll have to turn left on 25th, make another left on Dakota, and then left back on 26 to go right, to go up the hill to Genesee if you want to get into the junction. And that's already, those are little one-lane roads. There's parking on both sides. They just added 16 new townhomes over there. So it's going to be, it's going to back up even more so than it already is. So mostly my main concern is that right turn only is going to create even more problems than we already have. We definitely do need to have something. I like option 3. That's, I think, stay safe, stay healthy street is the best compromise for homeowners and cyclists and pedestrians. The people who live here, I think we live here because we have access. We used to have access to the bridge, no one does now, but we also are 10 minutes from the junction. We are 10 minutes from everything. You take that left turn away and we can't get to the grocery store. We can't get to the post office. We can't get to the local, everything is up that little hill. So I would just, by taking that away, we don't have access to West Seattle anymore. So, and we live here, so we would like to. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Okay. Oh, I see. Michael Taylor Judd is clapping. I don't know. So let's go to Andrew Campbell.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. All right, I'll try to be real fast because I know we're short on time. First of all, I really appreciate what you're trying to do. I live on 26th. I hate all the cut through traffic. It's terrible. My 2 cents is if you would like to do the most good for this neighborhood and for that issue, put in a circle at 26th and Alaska. I think that's the one-step solution that would do the most good for this issue. I also wanted to say that, I appreciate what you're trying to do. And I understand how if you didn't live in this neighborhood, these diverters might seem like a reasonable solution. But the one thing that I would like you to take away from tonight, at least from my perspective, is that the one thing that cannot happen is for people who live on 26th to be prevented from making a left onto Genesee. Because as Christine said, it just cuts us off from West Seattle, from the junction. it leaves us stranded down there underneath the golf course. And it will lead to hideous cut-throughs where you'll take a right, like she said, you'll take a right onto Genesee, and then you'll have to take a left onto 25th, which is a very narrow road, and then a left, and then a left, and then a right, just so you can get up Genesee. And if you don't live on 26th or in the neighborhood, you might not realize what a hardship that would be. But that would really, really be a nightmare for people who live in this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. All right, so I'm gonna keep moving here. 6 minutes. We're gonna do this. Hillary, do you want to go ahead?
Hi. Yes, thank you. I want to second much of what other people have said. Andrew, Kathy, Katie, but I want to also point out that either of those diverter plans are just going to create a demonstrably less safe traffic for those of us trying to enter and exit the neighborhood, because now you're forcing us out onto Delridge, making a series of lefts on this new, bus corridor without a center lane, it looks like, to turn into and wait. So I'm really concerned about getting in and out of the neighborhood with my preschooler in the back seat and having to make a bunch of lefts at uncontrolled intersections. I'm also very concerned about some of the traffic diversions. People have ways, and I mean the app Waze, right? Not people have methods. People have ways. If they can't turn on Brandon, they're going to turn on Hudson. They're going to turn on Alaska. And those are much more dangerous intersections. And I also want to point out, I've seen exactly what Kathy's talking about with the bus stop at Hudson. I live about 3 houses down from there. But I also want to remind SDOT, and you know this, there's a big sinkhole that we just can't fix at 26 and Hudson. And you guys have been out several times in the past couple of years to try to fill that. And so pushing more traffic onto my intersection at Hudson means more time with a big hole in the ground. So thank you. Thank you for being here and listening to us tonight.
Yes, thank you, Hillary. All right, I see 2 more questions and then I can go up through, but Douglas, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say thanks for you guys holding this meeting and kind of slowing things down and taking the time to listen to the neighborhood. A couple comments and then a question. First comment is the point that's come up multiple times about the difficulty of turning left at Genesee with the full diverter. I think that's a real problem. It needs to be taken seriously, and I think that really it's good you slowed down and listened to that. I also want to comment about 25th. I think it's very important to keep in mind the possibility of diversions over to 25th, and I hope you guys will keep an eye on that no matter what solutions arrived at. Personally, I'm stuck between preferring the half diverters and the stay healthy streets. My main concern with the stay healthy streets is the ones that currently exist with the temporary signs. They don't seem too effective to me. The signs get knocked over, they get ignored. Certainly it gives the easiest neighborhood access for drivers. And the need to slow down the cut through traffic is huge. As a daily bike commuter, I ride with my kid on 26th, and it can be scary at times. So my question is actually for Summer. The current stay healthy streets, have they actually demonstrated a reduction in traffic volumes and speeds? In other words, are they effective currently, and would we expect them to be effective if that was the solution that we arrived at on 26th?
Yeah, actually, I was just going through that data earlier this week, and I would be happy to share it with you. If you want to connect with the email that's on here, Madison will connect you to me, and I can share some data with you. We've compared it to the citywide data. Citywide's down at like 18%, and Stay Healthy Streets are down like 70%. As far as volume, but we've got lots of data we collected, and I'm happy to share it.
Okay, well, it would certainly be a more attractive solution, knowing that it does actually succeed in keeping traffic off and keeping traffic slow. So there is a problem right now. And thanks again.
Thanks, Douglas. All right, so I see Tall left, and then if people who have already asked a question, if you could lower your hand so I know if you don't have a second question, but let's go ahead and have Tall speak.
Yeah, I live at Brandon and 25th, and I second what Rob, I think it was the second speaker said. I am very concerned about our ability to access the junction. I've lived in this area for a long time. I didn't notice any issues with 26, but I'm not opposed to more minor safety measures, but not closing streets, not healthy streets or diverters, because we have no services on Delridge, no grocery store, very few restaurants, no pharmacy. We are dependent on Alaska Junction and Westwood Village, and I don't want to have to drive on Delridge all the time, especially while it's under construction and later when it's a bus lane, bus corridor. So I think neither of the solutions work for me as the resident of this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Tal. So we are looking at 1 more minute, and I see one more hand here. Michael Taylor Judd.
Yeah, hi, Madison. One issue I wanted to bring up, we've had troubles with SDOT in the past with sort of one hand not talking to the other, or people not doing their historical work when they come in with projects. And so 2 things that have come up here. So I'm on the north of Genesee side. And one thing that's been brought up by a bunch of neighbors is that when the diverter or speed humps and Greenway, when all that was originally coming up, that was all we were looking at. Since then, we've closed off 30th coming up Avalon, and you've put up a no left turn sign on Yancey. So we've already begun to direct a whole lot of traffic to come further around down onto Genesee in order to get into that neighborhood. And so folks are sort of saying, like, regardless of whether this is the right solution or not, someone needs to look at how these all balance for access to the neighborhood as a whole, and not just on 1 or 2 specific intersections. And similarly, even though this is a little side from the specific topic tonight, but the same thing, over the last 10, 15 years, SDOT has come in with project after project to remove parking. And despite neighbors saying that a 24-hour bus lane is a problem because there's lots of people who need to park at the sports fields, Youngstown, the community center at night and on weekends, SDOT refuses to put up some signs that would just time the bus lane when it comes in for this project. And that means all those people who currently park up on Delridge to go to all those destinations now also will have to come down into the neighborhoods onto 25th and 26th in order to park, which is also going to cause more traffic, more conflicts, etc.
Thank you, Michael. Good to see you. All right, I want to real quick. There's one person on the phone, so I think it's Joshua Olivier. I'm going to unmute you if you have a question, if you could speak. Otherwise, I'll wait a few seconds and we'll close out the meeting.
Hi, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, so with that, I want to say thank you to everyone for taking the time tonight. Giving SDOT an hour on your Wednesday. And this is recorded, so we have everyone's comments, and we will have the chat saved too. So we will read through everything, type up every comment, and get a response back out to the community. Again, timing, we're still to be determined on everything. But thank you again. And if you haven't, I want to go back to this slide. Please take the survey or, nope, wrong slide. Take the survey or email us or call us. You can email me or any of the other SDOT people on this call as well. But thank you again, everyone, and have a good evening.
Can I say something before we say goodbye? I just wanted to let everybody know that we did take notes. So we will be considering everything that folks said. And also, I want to give a shout out to our website. And, you know, if you're not on our listserv, please do sign up so that we can give you updates. And, you know, we have regular project updates, information updates. And if we don't have your information, that's just a good way to get that information out to you. And thanks everybody for coming. Thank you, Madison, for facilitating. Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the dialogue.
Bye.
Good night, all.